All right, what's up, everybody? Good to be back. We got a long one today, but we're gonna try and make it as quick as possible. Is kind of the idea, but it always is, as always, really good to be back. And what we're gonna go over today is also just so everybody knows the CC tier list is going to be next week. I think I have enough information where I could have maybe have done it today, but there's a couple things that I need to check off. And so the big one, the CC tier list after the new set will be next week. And that's when we'll be doing that. And then ironically, the week after that, we'll be doing another tier list, which will be LL. That is the current plan. Is today we're going to go over the set. We're going to go talk about all the new cards. We're going to go literally card by card, kind of analyze it. We're going to take a hero based approach. We're going to like analyze all four of them and just kind of say, what they're kind of trying to do. And, some different ways that you can kind of build the hero, right? This is more a kind of discovery discussion. This is not a I have all the answers, right? This is more a, I've began to think about these heroes and kind of play with them a little bit. And I kind of see a couple branches, right? Like an example like Tuffnut, you can go, your rock build that kind of what everybody thought the hero would originally land on, in which I still think is a completely viable version of the hero. And then you have like your club version, which is also something a lot of people are playing with. And we'll kind of go over what's the advantages and disadvantages of both kinds of those builds. Now, I don't have enough reps on all of them to kind of delineate several different builds for every single one, but I'm going to talk to them to the best of my ability. And we're going to kind of just talk about cards that are very, very impactful. Some things that, a lot of cards that people are obviously playing. But it'll ask the question of, are people leaning into it quite as much as they should be, kind of aspect. And so that's kind of what we're going to be discussing today. Is just going through the set, talking about it. Of course, as always, if you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to just throw them in the chat. I'd be more than happy to go over them. And without delay, I say let's just hop right in. No reason to waste any time here. Let's just hop right in. So what I'm going to do let me think about for a sec about the best way to do this. Should we go hero by hero? And then maybe, or go hero by hero. No, actually, I think the best avenue is going to be to go talent, both heroes within said talent, and then so forth. But what we will do, kind of before people get in here, because I want to give people a minute, let's go ahead and hit the expansion slot, because that doesn't really require any prior knowledge or anything like that, or any context really. And some of these we've kind of like went over probably the better part of half of them. So let's go ahead and just go over those real quick, not spend too terribly long on them. We obviously have the equipment, which isn't particularly relevant. Not from what I can see. Helm of Hindsight, maybe. It's going to be very niche, right? Like, if there's ever a card that's like super pivotal to a game plan, there could be a niche case for it. But all these, this is just a I forget the card, Blossoming Spring reprint, basically is effectively what it is. Cutting Retort, as far as like where the playability of this card kind of fits in, the stat line is okay, right? A lot of people are gonna be like 0 for 4 or 3 block, like that's good enough, right? Well, not really, because you got cards like what is it, standing order that can, sink your arsenal and block for more. There's a lot of cards with that stat line. So yes, it may fit into a deck like, say, Briar, obviously, that doesn't pay a high opportunity cost for generic cards. But to just, blanket statement say that the stat line is good enough, probably not the case. The effect is good. The downside here is that it does say token. So you're going to be limited on obviously what you can kind of get rid of. The good aspect of it is this is an on attack effect. It is not, depending on whether you hit, you don't have to be tricky with it. You just literally play it, pitch into it, and you can even like tune it counter to keep it like cost effective to take those ores. So that is kind of you know where I'm at with as far as an actual use case. I think this is actually an okay card to slide into your LL Briar deck. Briar, especially with the inclusion back of Dirge, Briar is currently looking for a way to kind of compete with Chain. Historically, Chain's been the more consistent aggro deck, and just unless Briar gets that really explosive turn, just kind of takes over the game. With this card, you can kind of slow down the shackles, right? Like that's the main reason that you would play this card. And then you also don't waste your resources because you're typically holding a blue for Rosetta Thorn anyway. So it doesn't mess up your curve. You're not playing a 3 for 7 in a deck that's meant to play zero cost. So you have a low opportunity cost, blocks well, and you have the opportunity to kind of slow the chain player down to get you that turn of opportunity, right? So this is kind of exactly what she was kind of looking for in that specific matchup. So really could see this card making some play in LL and Briar. I'm definitely experimenting with it. Is it good enough to take her to the top? Probably not, to be honest, but it definitely helps, to say the least. Obviously, the Codex Killer, we've already talked about this in the couple streams before. Pretty straightforward, right? If you can slot this in your deck and everybody's playing Codex of Frailty, it's a good card. If everybody's not, it's probably not that great, to be honest, but it really just depends. It having ambush pretty decent, but we've talked about that one. Kick the Hornet's Nest is an interesting card, right? It being a super rare generic card, 3 cost, so it is a popper generic card with an actual effect. This is when this opponent's effect puts into your graveyard anywhere, create those 4 tokens. Now, a lot of people are probably looking at this card and like, oh yeah, that's like a really good just generic popper. Well, yes and no, because in today's age, to be considered a true popper, you're at 7 power due to Herald of Triumph. So this is a higher risk popper. But if there's ever an illusionist that makes it back into the format, say like Dromai 2.0 or something like that, where we don't care whether it's 6, 7, or 8, whatever the case may be, this could be a great inclusion to add as that slot if you don't need an on-hit effect from cards like Erase Face, Humble, that kind of 2 for 6 package in generic. So because you're also not paying opportunity cost in the block value either, and it's a yellow, so it's really a sweet spot in all of those areas. And then we have Unwavering Resolve. I think this card is pretty dog shit, if I'm being honest. So I kind of tried to wrap my head around this and like, okay, so you read this card and you're like, your mind immediately probably goes to Last Ditch Effort, right? And what makes Last Ditch Effort so playable is it's a blue card and it can easily be pitched. It blocks 3. It does all of the things that you want it to get to a late game state. This does none of those things. It's red, high opportunity cost to pitch it for later, and then it's a 2 block. So literally, it's just ass, right? Now, Unlimited, like somebody mentioned in chat, pretty good, right? Really good. Beat the Same Drum, 0 cost blue, non-attack action, 3 block. good stat line. If you've controlled an agility token this turn, create an agility token, then repeat for confidence, might, toughness, and vigor. Very situational. Highly doubt it'll see play unless you are just cranking out tokens left and right. So it really just depends. And then we have another card of this exact same cycle, the 0 cost. If you it has an effect or gives an on hit to the next attack action card that hits, and then gets +3 if it's from Arsenal. The other ones are Plunder Run, which is banned obviously in CC. Then you have Smashing Good Time, things like that. And this one is just blowing up an aura. So, this is actually kind of decent. I don't necessarily hate it, but it's very niche, and the community is kind of spoken where Smashing Good Time is rarely made an entrance into the format, and that's mainly due to the fact that it gives the opponent the opportunity to just block. So you have to have like some type of like surprise factor, some type of evasion kind of with it. And this has to come from Arsenal to actually get value from it no matter what. So it's kind of risky. These cards have shown to have their role in the meta, but not, come in and out very, very seldomly. Somebody mentioned that Tuffnut card. I don't believe it is. In fact, in Tuffnut, you would have to pitch the last card in your deck to play this card efficiently. Because if you drew 3 cards at the beginning of your turn and you pitched one to play this, well, now this is a 3-card 10, which is not a bad stat line, but you're not waiting to the end of the game to do a 3-card 10. Not where you want to be. And if you're able to line this up by pitching the top card of your deck and then have no cards in your deck, then you've won the game on skill and you didn't need this card, to be honest. So if you can line all that up, then congratulations. Bluster Buff, I am actually a huge fan of this card. I don't know what the true use of this card is, but it has one. I just haven't put my finger on it, okay? It does a lot of things. I'm thinking decks like KO or maybe even like Rhinar to some extent. If you need a card that is a 6 power, but you don't like the cost curve of cards, like I'll give you an example. Like Savage Feast is historically known as probably one of the best 6 power cards, and it's because it gives you the ability to play things off curve. And I think this is going to provide a very similar aspect. Hang on one second. Okay, sorry. So that's kind of what I'm thinking with this. So I think Rhinar is going to find a use for this card. I don't know what. I'm sure Eugene will figure it out very easily. I'm not sure what the conclusion will look like. He's running Nimblism and it works. So, there's all the reason you need, right? Don't need any more proof than that. So I think this card's, I don't want to say great, but I think it will be a role player in very niche situations. And then we have Chest Puff. Weird name, but I respect it. And this is just the same effect. And this card is absolutely useless. The only reason that you would ever run this card is if you needed a 7 popper for Prism or some other reason you would need exactly a 7 popper, but you cannot afford the 3 cost curve in the event that you have to play it offensively. So in a all yellow deck that needs a 7 popper, this could see play. Highly doubt it though. But that's the only use case. There's no reason to play this card. Literally just play like a 3 for 7. Punch above your weight, generic. So this is the same thing, but it starts from a lower number. So the only reason, once again, that you would play this card is It blocks less than Raging Onslaught. It does have more flexibility though. So this is actually an interesting card in a way. Like obviously the reviled heroes, they get benefits from the attack actions being a lower base. So you have that use case. Is it good enough? Probably not, but it's a situational thing. What I like about the design of this card is if you ever have a deck that like has blues they don't need. A good example of that could be like a deck like Briar, where your mana base is or your cost curve is basically zero. But sometimes you just like have blues that you don't really know what to do with if you have tempo. This is a good dump. I think there's better cards to do that. Like I would definitely play like Earthlore Surge or something like that, which serves way more roles than this card in kind of that example. And then it comes in 3 colors as well: red, yellow, and blue. Brothers in Arm reprint, so is Feisty Locals. And then we have Right Behind You, which is a pretty interesting one. 3 for 7, blocks 2, unfortunately. When this defends with another card from hand, specifically from hand, it gets +1. Look at the top card of your deck, you may put it to the bottom. This basically is a card that could see play in Tuffnut. It's one. Okay, let me preface that. Only if you're on rock, first of all, and only if you're on less than 45 or 50 blues. If you meet that criteria, you could entertain this card for the base premise that you are effectively, how can I say this? It's very important for you to know the top card of your deck because you need to know if it's a yellow if you have tunic counter or a blue so you can actually swing your rock, right? And this gives you the ability at a cost to manipulate the top card of your deck. There are more efficient ways to do it, but this is a card you can utilize to answer said problem. Likely I replace Freewheeling Renegade. Yeah, for the 1 for 6. 100% agree. Prime the Crowd. This is limited ass card, right? 2, go again. This is applies to anything between Nimblism and Slogism. Maybe man, your deck has to like literally and it doesn't even block 3. Oof, rough. And this is not a May ability. This is a must. So if you play this in a deck that doesn't receive the benefit from this, if you get matched into your opponent that does, you give them a free benefit. So it does have some opportunity costs associated there. Before we get into the expansion slot, let me roll up to the top and talk to the big dog here, which is the Fabled of the set. A lot of people are kind of anticipating that this is going to be a very highly sought after Fable, and I see that viewpoint, and I do kind of agree with it in some way. But the main thing I want people to understand is this is a really good card, right? Like it does something, and I hate the fact that they're doing this in the Fable slot. Honestly, in my opinion, because I don't, and I especially they've gotten smart enough to basically do the gem pack the way they're doing it and kind of solving that issue, right? They're making huge strides on solving the affordability issue of the game, and then they do this basically, which is I get that Fables for the better part of probably 6 to 8 sets just like lost all of their like I don't know how else to say it other than people like literally, except from a collector standpoint and like enjoying the art, people didn't give a shit about them, right? I understand that that's a tough, right? Like you look at like uh the Tales of Aria one, right? You have the Draconic one, trash. You have Master Cog that has tried to see play, but it's not consistent. You have the Misveil one, dog shit. You have what was it in Hunted? I don't even remember, to be honest. Um And so, like, a lot of them, I get it, right? I get the fact that, for a long time, the fables did not matter. But I think that you can entertain this idea if the rest of your game is kind of like in a reasonable state. I think this is a little early. So, like, give you an example. If the average cost of a deck was like $500, this is not that big of an offense. But if things are at $1,000, $1,500, it's kind of spitting in people's face, to be honest. So yeah, Hunted was the Chaos Gem. Yeah, it saw some niche play, but didn't really catch on that all that much. So for the most part, the Fables have been like very, very niche playable, and it is what it is. And then Riches came out, and that kind of is where they kind of changed the narrative from what it seems like. I don't know if it's going to continue. But my ultimate analysis of this card is it's going to come in and out of the meta, right? There's going to be some points where D-reacts are everywhere, and this is going to be, $200 card. It's never going to if you think it's going to be like I have a Ophidia level, never going to happen, in my opinion. But because there's a lot of decks that like have a very high opportunity cost on this. So that's kind of I think it's good. I think it's a very good card, and it'll definitely 100% see play in a lot of different. And I will say that it's probably one of the first Fables that strictly is like a sideboard card. I don't think any of the other Fables have kind of met that criteria. Like I know Kanos would usually side out Eye in some matchups if they had to combo really quickly. But it's interesting. It's interesting. Don't agree with the current sphere in which it kind of exists, but what can you do? So let's go and scoot back down to the we went over the generic cards. Let's go ahead and hit the other expansion slot cards. So Flick Knives, great reprint. I'm all about these reprints, especially Felling, especially Plow, New Horizon. I was talking to Aaron about this, and I was like, bro, why the hell did they reprint New Horizon? And he goes, doesn't matter, look at the art. And it turns out Aaron was probably right. The art is absolutely sick. Did New Horizons need a reprint? Hell no. Absolutely not. And this set was not designed far enough back to where Lexi was in the meta, which was the last time that card was actually like relevant in any way, other than a couple Riptides and stuff like that. But the art makes it worth it. Okay, I'll give him a pass on that. Give him a pass. Hunter or Hunted? Light of Soul is a strong gem fable. That is correct. That is correct. Hunter or Hunted? Obviously, this is just going to be. You can use this in LL for new. I think it's a little cheeky. I think it's a little too much. Like, there's no way that I'm playing this because it's only good if you can transcend and activate your ability. I think this is just literally an Arachne card. Through and through. Is it enough to like make him relevant in the game at all? Absolutely not. Better luck next time. But amazing design. Like, as far as how they did on the card, amazing. Is it going to change anything? No, it's not. Then we have the 13th Katsu card that won't matter. 0 cost, 3/3 stat line with combo. If Surging Strike was the last attack in this combat chain, it gets +2. And if this was played at chain link 3 or higher, this gets Go again. So basically how this works is you have to most of your lines are going to consist of like starting with Kadachi into Surging Strike into this. And it does give you the flexibility of being a yellow, and it is also a whelming gust wave, or not a whelming, I haven't played Katsu in so long. Descendant gust wave that costs 0 that produces the same output, right? Both of them would come in for 5 if they were quote unquote turned on. And so that's kind of It's kind of the same thing, just it's statted better. It's like yellow and it's 0 cost, so you can discard, and it blocks 3. So this is basically a upgraded Descendant Gustwave. However, the only fucking reason you would ever play Descendant Gustwave is for bonds. and then also like probably Dishonor is the whole reason you're playing Katsu. And this does not work with bonds, or not bonds. It does not work with Dishonor, obviously. So there's enough said. Then we have 4 cards dedicated in the expansion slot for Olympia. This was a choice of all time. So the way that you look at this kind of idea is the hero basically starts at 48 life, assuming that you can resolve 1 visit. What is it? The Golden Anvil, whatever that blue card is that was in the expansion slot before. And the idea is you can just jam your armor for 8, not necessarily at one time, but whatever, 2 blocks for 4, however you want to do it. And then when everything has 1 counter on it, because it has temper, it would stay around. And you can then just use visit the Golden Anvil, and it all pays for itself, and you basically just get another set of equipment like your dynamos if you're doing that thing, or your Brage 4 bracers, whatever, right? So the point is you get 8 value from your visit the Golden Anvil, right? But that is also a card and action point investment, so you actually only net 4 or 5 value, so you start at 44 or 45 depending on whatever the case may be. The problem is you run the risk of not ever getting to that card or being able to resolve it. But it does not, if you have a shitty hero and they just start at 44 life, I don't think it changes anything in the grand scheme of things unless you're playing Blitz or something like that. So in CC, probably not so much. Does it make them better? Of course. Is it going to be relevant? No. Do you know if there's an extended art for the Super Slam New Horizon? I would hope there is. I would be extremely disappointed if there wasn't. Beat the Iron Song, 0 cost blue, by Josh's rules. Dory with no helmet in the art means it's a good card. And it's an attack reaction, blocks 3, blue 0 cost, like I mentioned. Choose X+1, so you always get 1, right? So at worst, at absolute worst, you can. This card is extremely flexible. Like, holy shit. So you can turn it into a weird jagged edge. You can turn it into a shut down, I don't know, reinforce the line or something. I don't know. Because technically reactions are instant speed in the reaction step, so you can do that. And at worst case, it's a go again, right? And then worst case, it's +1 just to get over. So it's so flexible just on the surface of what it can do. And then you get even more depending on if you have a counter. So it kind of helps your racing potential or whatever the case may be. All in all, I think this is really, really good card. I mean, it's not going to replace Glint the Quicksilver, probably, in my opinion, probably replace Precision Press, that blue slot, more than likely, because this is a source of go again. You kind of, fulfill that. That would be my best guess. And so this is really good, in my opinion. We've already talked about this. I think this is really good. Unfortunately, in the meta we're going into, I don't know how this will actually translate. I think everybody would just jump to the conclusion that this was going to be absolutely broken, and it kind of is. The problem is the matches where this hits happen so fast that the game could ever end before you even see one. And every other match is probably not going to hit, is kind of the issue that this card has. Once again, it automatically goes in every Kasai deck. by default, right? Huge staple. But is it going to like catapult Kasai to the top of the meta? I don't think it will. I think she'll definitely be a lot better, but I don't think it's going to like transcend anybody. I have a problem with this card, and I'll explain why. I hate everything about this card. Okay, let me tell you why. Does it have anything to do with the actual card? No, it does not. But this is literally a 1-for-1 copy of another legendary. But it's just better because it blocks for 1. Or, I'm sorry, they both block for 1. I guess the other one had galvanized, so I guess maybe that's a little unfair. My point is they took the exact same card and changed the word battle worn, or changed the word galvanized to battle worn. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how I feel about it, is what I'm saying. Maybe I was a little too harsh at the beginning. Maybe it's not that atrocious. Yeah, we talked about the Katsu card. I do think it's good, but I don't think it's gonna like change the deck. I don't think it's changing anything, to be honest. Now, on the contrary, oh, this one is base. Oh, I made a mistake. I thought the other one was as well. Point doesn't really hit when Tekla players have been asking for exactly this for. Okay, that's a good point. My mistake. That's something that I misunderstood. So it does say base. Okay, I understand now. So the way I read this now is that they just fucked up the first one. Or maybe that's like every other mech, and then this is just Teklo's exclusive, which obviously is the case because it is a base. Okay. I retract everything I said. I was wrong. Is it going to make Teklo relevant? No. He got 4 extra life. And he can move shit around. Doesn't matter. And then we have Backspin Thrust, which everybody's kind of talked about because it was kind of one of the first cards that got spoiled. Really good card. I don't think there's anything to really argue about it. 0 for 5, go again, or 0 for 4, untap a cog is pretty good. The one thing that I will say is it's not as fluid as you would think, right? Because you do have to have a cog that is tapped. So there are some requirements. Again, don't get me wrong. It is fluid. I'm just saying it's not no 0 for 60 or 0 to 60 is what I'm saying. So you are kind of right there. It's not as fluid, but still amazing card. Hit the gas. Max specialization, blue, 0 cost, 3 block. Turn any number of hyperdrivers in your banish zone face down, gain that many action points. If 3 or more cards turn face down this way, draw a card. Okay, so this is your. So basically, when they banned high octane, it literally rendered Max to be unplayable by every definition imaginable. I mean, he instantly, and I mean almost instantly, became one of the worst decks in Flesh and Blood. And this is that replacement. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. It obviously is kind of going with the flow of the Armory deck, keeping with like Max having to focus and double down on the hyperdrivers, which is kind of always been the thing. And I'm curious of what direction this is going to kind of take Max. Does he stay? Does he adopt something new from the Armory deck kit, or does he go back to defaulting to the Mechanologist strategy, right? Because there's nothing here that I can see, right? You just need hyperdrivers in your banish zone, and you get that many action points. So I guess you need them in your banish zone already, and you just turn them face down. So it's a harder to execute. It's a harder to execute. But the hyperdrivers make the mech, and they go under it. No, the equipment goes under it, so you don't banish the hyperdrivers. Okay. I'll have to read the new cards. Maybe there's something that synergizes. So kind of, it's a good card, no matter how you cut it. I just gotta like dig into it a little bit more to kind of get a better idea. Then you have Mage Hunter Arrow. This is just sideboard tech, right? Do you? It's next time you be dealt arcane damage this turn. Okay. Um, so it is a source of quote unquote, spell void. It is basically spell void 3. Um, and you know, if it hits a rune blade or a wizard, you get to destroy an aura. Like, okay, sure. I think against rune blade, I don't think it's really that worth it, right? Because um, most of the tokens that you would like, the only one that would actually be worth it is going to be a embodiment of lightning from a rune blade, and in that situation, like it's really good. But if you're taking embodiment of earth, they've already gotten the value from blocking because you have to go to the damage step to hit the on trigger or the on hit trigger. So you've already extracted the value from the earth embodiment of earth. So therefore, in taking nobody gives a fuck about +1 damage on a by destroying a rune chant unless it's like okay, it's an anti Vinny card, sure, but she's got enough problems right now. Uh, yeah, so decent sideboard tech, maybe see play. We've already talked about this. This is my favorite designed card of the set. Also, the art is absolutely amazing. I think the card is worse than people think it is, but I do not think it is bad. I think a lot of people playing into Riptide or playing, going into Riptide, playing the deck. They're starting out with 3 of them. They very quickly go to 2, and then slowly down to 1, and then maybe even none. So, um, it is playable. I don't want to like, sugarcoat, or I don't want to like, sell the wrong thing, but um malefics and channels, yeah. Vinny's the one running malefics. Yes, yes. So yes, is the anti-Vinny card, sure. And then channels, like, I don't know. Take the bait, kind of okay. It's an okay card. It'll see its play if you ever need to force somebody to interact with you. It's good, but I think if your Riptide deck does not handle full tempo very well, there's a way to manipulate the use of that card. Basically, is kind of what I'm getting at. March terrain, uh, great design, right? Makes it where they basically can't gain life. Really cool. The confusing part about this is like Draconic is the one talent that doesn't give a fuck if you're gaining life, right? Like Fi is just gonna push damage, push damage, push damage. You can gain life all you want, it doesn't fucking matter. Because you have recursion, low to the ground, all of this different, things going. You're very aggressive, and then you have, Fang kind of does the same. To be honest, this is like a Fang card more than anything, because it also can it does cost 1, which kind of sucks. But if you ever needed to hedge into, say, the Verdance matchup or something like that, you could play this, and it actually be somewhat relevant. So, uh, Gravy got this ally. I don't think this card is very good. And I'll explain why. So first, the stat line is atrocious. Okay, 3 costs 4, and then still cost 1 to swing. Um, so terrible stat line. And then also, so the people who are gonna have on hit triggers on your allies, right? Which is basically what you're um I guess it does stop the really tall stuff too with Guardian, but Gravy doesn't need help with Guardian, right? Like he's already got that unlocked. So this is like just, you know, kind of kicking a dead horse. Um and if something goes wide, like yes, you could like stop whirling Mist Blossom or whatever kind of on hit you want. But if I'm playing that line, I'm killing this shit first, right? And I'm gonna kill this before. Well, actually, hang on. Yeah, you have to discard until end of turn. Effects controlled by your opponents don't trigger. So it's the whole turn. So if I start with a head jab into this, and you don't have like a Sawbones or something, then you have to immediately do the chum activation, right? And gamble. I guess there's not an opportunity cost there because you no longer have as many tipples, which is the main reason why you would not want to get rid of an ally from hand. So maybe it's not as bad as I thought, but it's not amazing in my opinion. Um, so I think it's okay. It's niche on the surface, but Gravy's obviously in a perfectly fine spot. I don't think he's particularly going anywhere. Catch of the day is kind of insane. To be honest, it does like everything. It's blue, 0 cost, blocks 3, pump on hit, technically, because it just doubles the on hit. It just fucking does everything, is basically what this card is. So obviously Marlin card. But just really good. Um This card, a lot of people are hyping up for Vinny. I think it changes absolutely nothing. It gives you another more streamlined, playable Shadow Runeblade card, sure. But for the first time ever, I can confidently say that the current problem for Vinny is not her card quality. It is the meta that she currently exists in. And that will be her issue for quite some time. So card's good, don't get me wrong. And it does make Vinny better, but that's not the problem that she's facing. Uh, and I completely skipped this card. I went down a row out of nowhere. Um, I did skip some cards. Thank you for catching that. So we have the channel. This is so one of the biggest weaknesses to Florian was kind of like getting the auras going, right? Well, this is an easy way to like fix that. It's getting a little scary that kind of Florian's kit just has everything now. Like the one way there was to like attack it, it's like slowly just like chipping away at like. Imagine if Oldham just had like ways to just get rid of auras. Like we would have seen a completely. I'm not comparing Florian to Oldham, by the way. But we would have seen a completely different meta, right? Because there would not have been those Prism players to sit there and kind of like prey on them. And I'm not saying this like completely flips the matchup, but what I'm saying is it will help. It will make a difference. This isn't some like cringe ass 9 lead the charge kind of bullshit. This is a playable card. It's fucking yellow. It's an Earth 3 block. Like what more would you want from it, right? Oh, and it gets rid of the one thing that your deck is weakest to. So really good card. I think it'll definitely see play. It'll be a sideboard card, obviously, but really good. And then Light Up the Leaves is absolutely insane. Does everything Verdance wants. I think this opens the door for kind of not having to. You can kind of big spell your way through the game if people are trying to kind of like set up some anti-combo shenanigans. So this, along with Burn Bear, you run 6 total 6 arcane spells plus a couple other ones like Emeritus and things like that. And you really start getting to that territory where kind of like how Icelander worked, which is a little different. Don't get me wrong; it's not a 1-to-1 because Icelander would continuously pressure on both turns, where Verdance really doesn't have access to do that. But you can scale your arcane so high that you're going to get chip damage in. So if anybody wants to contend on a long game with you, this basically forces them to increase the opportunity cost by incorporating life gain. If they don't have life gain, they shouldn't even think about it. And this kind of like sets that premise. People are thinking that, heads up. And it is something to expect in the upcoming season. So just be on the lookout for that. And then you have Attendant and Awaken a target figment you control. Put this card into your soul. So if I'm not mistaken, Prism's hero ability only triggers if a herald goes into your soul. So this will not give you a free figment. You don't get to tutor one. You do get to awaken it, right? And I think the power here, God, I hope Kevin's here. I don't know if Kevin is, but if he is, I would love for him to just correct me out of left field. But to me, when I read this card, I'm like, this is just an easy way to turn on Vestige. That's what I'm reading that's what I'm thinking when I read this card. I could be totally wrong. How many sets after Rosetta did it take Florian to finally get the full package? 4? Define what do you mean by the full package? Because I think he had the package, quote unquote, from like day one. There was just this little deck called Enigma that was floating around in the meta that literally told him to sit his ass down. And then the second, and I mean the second that Enigma left, Florian just took over. Like overnight, it happened. It was actually just insane. No, we're about to get into the new heroes. We are finishing up the expansion slot. In fact, we're like literally almost done. And Battlefield Beacon. So this card would be a lot better if it said Bacon. But it's a Bolton card, so it's kind of trash. No, I'm not gonna do that. It's not far off. Okay, don't get me wrong. The card's good. It is a good card, right? Historically, your cards like Bolt of Courage and stuff like that, the yellow comes in for 2. This yellow comes in for 3. So like, as far as like on rate, off rate, it's a good card. It is probably slightly above rate, but it does not fix. It does not fix the fundamental problem that Bolton has. And that's, but it's an upgrade. It is an upgrade. That is something that we have to concede 100%. So, and then we had, we already went over these cards, and then of course we got the reprints, which are very well needed. And then we have the, how's the equipment down here? I guess they just put this in the, because you don't want to get this during draft, of course. That would be nuts. But we'll get into this. So this says Revered Guardian. This says Revered. So you can play this in Tuffnut if you want to. Very odd that you would play Tuffnut and then like have this art. Does not click. So interesting. Interesting is all I'm going to say. And yeah, these are Guardians, so they can be played on any of the Guardians. And this one is just Old Girl. So let's go ahead and go to the top. So like I said, what we're going to do is actually getting into the new heroes and everything. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to dig into the talent. So we're going to start with Revered just because it's at the fucking top. We are going to start with Revered. Then we're going to branch off into Tuffnut and Pleiades, right? And then kind of like take them on kind of one at a time. Kind of go over that. So let's just go and do that. So we're just going to skip right down to the just generic Revered cards is where we're going to start. And kind of go from there. So this is Revered Guardian. We have Head equipment. Okay. Well, I guess first let's just in case we might have some newer players. Let's just go over the hero cards real quick. Tuffnut is 3 intellect. That's the key piece when reading this hero ability. And then obviously instant. You tap the hero. You pitch the top card of your deck, so you gain the resources on that pitch stripe. And if it has 6 or more, you get a Tuffnut or a not a tough. They should have called it a Tuffnut token. A Toughness token, which basically means your first action card that you block with on your opponent's next turn gets +1. Just the next one, not Embodiment of Earth for the whole turn. And then you have Pleiades, where she can do the same thing, or she can tap, and then you can remove a suspense counter from an aura you control, and so you just move it. You move one counter to something else, and basically what that allows you to do is effectively, if you have a really high priority aura, you can just kind of like drag stuff over to keep it forever, or you can kind of manipulate when things pop or don't pop, because most of the auras say when there's no aura counters, destroy this and trigger X effect, right? So you can just manipulate when that happens. And then whenever the crowd cheers, you create a confidence token. Okay. So basically both of them get their perspective tokens when they are cheered. That is the relevant point in reading these coming cards. So we'll start with the head equipment. I mean, this will not see play. I would never value being cheered at 1 plus another bonus effect. So you just do like a 1-to-1 comparison, like this versus Crown of Providence or Balance of Justice. Like, you're giving up a positive effect of sinking a card plus an extra block to get a cheer. Not worth it. So not gonna fly. Here you pitch an entire card. You're down 1 card. Create 3 toughness tokens. Activate only if you have let. So it's conditional, and it's blade break. Kind of sus. I will say that this card could actually see play, because there are a lot of cards on the surface. This card reads like absolute shit, like just dog shit, right? But there are a lot of cards that specifically say if you have 3 toughness tokens, and I don't think it actually says it in that way, but it says like it blocks 3, and it says if this card blocks for 6 or more, you get X effect. So it's the same fucking thing. And so like, if those cards have a spot in the meta, this is a very easy way to trigger it. This being an action and conditional on when you can activate it is kind of makes it a lot worse. If this was instant, it would actually be kind of goated, because you could like analyze the situation and then like lean into it. But here you have to like have this predictive capability to see what's happening the next turn, and it's much more difficult to actually leverage for full value. So we may see a deck that just uses it in a very, very unique way, but not going to be often. No shot. This card is amazing. Okay. Let me get caught up in chat real quick. Both Earth heroes were consistently supported since release. That is actual factual. It reads around popping matchups because, yep. Will these equips from the armory deck be in the expansion slot, or are they just there for show? I read it as it's in the expansion slot, because this is just the Super Slam page. This is not the armory deck has a completely separate page. Would be funny if Pleiades made it Tuffnut tokens. It would be. It would be. Confidence is the only token in the game that features a hero. That's a good point. That is kind of weird. But hey, I'm all for change. We can adapt. We can adapt. So let's continue. This card, absolutely insane. This is actually, in my opinion, probably one of the best cards in Tuffnut specifically. Because it actually creates by itself the most profitable scab skins role in the game, unless you're Eugene. But everybody else, this is your best card. in that regards. And basically, if you pitch a blue, uh, or you pitch a yellow and you have like a tunic. So if you're on club and you pitch a yellow, you can just roll scabs, play this in club for a basic 2-card 10. And then if you're on rock, of course, you need like a tunic counter if it's a yellow because you need it to be a 6 because you need to be cheered. But then it can be like literally a 2-card tunic counter, like, 14, which is absolutely insane. So if you're on a rock build, absolute all-star. And really, really good card just overall. No Hero Stands Alone. This is also a really good card that's very flexible. It can kind of put you in some spots, but all it requires you to do is make a toughness or have had a toughness token that turn. So it being a 0 block, it's one of those things where you have to see like what your deck is doing, and it's also yellow, right? Which is alleviates a lot of that pain. So you have to see how. The way I would evaluate these cards that kind of require you having a toughness token is I would play a series of games and I would kind of analyze like how often I had one and how often I didn't. And then more importantly, how often are you making toughness tokens in certain matchups versus other matchups, right? Is going to be a very important aspect of it. So that's just one thing to consider that's going to be pretty impactful in my opinion. But overall, I think it's a really, really good card for sure. And a good clean fight, another super rare, 3 cost, 3 for 7, blocks 3, solid stat line. If attacking hero, non-equipment cards they own lose and can't gain abilities. Okay. This is just sideboard tech, and it's a good popper, right? So if you obviously uh and this is if this is attacking a hero, this is just it. Whoa, hang on. I read this wrong. I thought it said if it hit. This is literally humble, but doesn't have to hit and blocks 3. That's pretty good. So if humble is ever meta, this is just a way better statted, non-conditional version of that. So this card will see play. When and where, it'll be situational. Sometimes we play humble, sometimes we play erase face, sometimes we play whatever that 2 for 6 slot is in the current sideboard meta. But this, if you're revered, definitely an upgrade. The borders on the cards are absolutely sick. I 100% agree. This card is wild, okay? Because there's so many times where so one thing I want to preface is it's very hard to evaluate a toughness token, okay? Because a lot of people are just going to say, well, duh, it's worth 1. Well, yes, technically, but, and this is what we're going to see as an evolution as the meta progresses. What's going to happen? What is actually going to happen is I think that toughness out the gate is going to be one of the strongest tokens. But then people are going to realize that they can kind of manipulate how the opponent extracts value from their toughness tokens. I'll give you an example. So let's say you're playing like a KO matchup or whatever the case may be against a Tuffnut or something like that. And they have a couple toughness tokens, right? Well, you if you're ever at like a low life total or something like that, or you have like an action point or an agility, what you can do is you can like throw claw and force out blocks because they can't just take the damage and die, or that puts them down into like reckless swing territory or something like that. And then therefore that you send the smaller attack first, so they have to waste their toughness tokens on that attack. Same thing for playing against wide decks, right? Like, sure, your first attack might block for 7 because you have a bunch of toughness tokens, but if they're only attacking for 4, it doesn't fucking matter. So uh, anything over that just gets wasted. Sure, you get free protection against combat tricks and stuff like that. Sucks to be Katsu, just saying. But the value can be mitigated is the important part that I'm trying to portray, is that your opponent has a lot of agency that decides how much value you will actually extract from your toughness tokens. But this card is bonkers, and this card literally, I think this is a really good sideboard card against any deck that kind of wants to attack really tall. So if you're like playing Tuffnut into like KO or something like that, this card is just absolutely bananas because it's literally a 2 for 9 in a lot of cases. And you playing against KO, they're always going to lead with a 6. You're usually going to get, or most time even 7, usually going to get all that value. So really, really good card. Is it a staple in the deck? Maybe, maybe not. But if you move toward like a really high toughness build, something like that, it's a really good card though. Then you have what people are calling good old drone of brutality. This is the one that just kind of goes back to the bottom. Some more text of if it has 6 or more defense. So that's the synergy that would be with like cards like that, or even something like this, whatever the case may be. So these are kind of like how you are generating those engines to execute these effects. But overall, really good card. If you're making toughness tokens, I don't know how much you're actually going to need this card. That's the ultimate burden of proof for this card, is basically it's good. Stat line's good. Yellow, 3 for 6. It's fine. And it blocks 3. And it has a good like attack effect, and it has a very, very situational defensive tax, right? So like it kind of does all of it really well. The question just comes down to, do you need the recursion? Because without the recursion, I don't think there's just better cards to play, in my opinion. But still, very, very solid. And then it'll make its way into the meta if you need the recursion. Beastly Behavior, when this attacks a reviled hero. So this is just basically draft or giga sideboard card. When this hits a reviled hero, put a card from the arsenal to the bottom of their deck. Just really, really, limited, or that's not even that good of. I mean, I guess it's like a 3 for 8 CNC. So yeah, pretty good sideboard card if you ever needed it. Renounce Violence is 0 cost, instant. Destroy up to 3 might tokens. Once again, this is just limited or just giga hate, is what this is. And then you have Never Give Up. This is another way this is one of the ways that you can very routinely turn on these effects, right? Well, I don't want to say very routinely because there's literally a laundry list of things required to activate this card. So this card is going to go into the graveyard. And then at that point, you can basically pitch 2 to activate it at any time, which is really good. And it says activate this only while it's in the graveyard, like I just mentioned, and you have to have less life than the other hero, and you have to have cheered this turn. So in Tuffnut, this is like actually pretty easy because as long as you flip a yellow, you're good. Because your yellow more than likely will be a 6, and you will fulfill all the requirements because you will have been cheered, and hopefully, obviously, you're going to be lower life, right? And then that yellow will produce the 2 it costs to actually pump it. So I think this is extremely playable in Tuffnut if you actually need it. It's actually a lot of threat density as well. Or not threat density, but anti-threat longevity. I don't know how you want to word it, but that's what it is. And so solid card. It'll see play in some niche builds depending on how far they're leaning into that strategy. Because once again, a reminder, it says it just needs 3 block. It doesn't give a shit how it gets there. You could do reinforce the line. You could do whatever. Does not matter. It just says you need to pump that defense up. That could be done by this, toughness, whatever the case may be. All right, we got Wounded Bull, but better, actually. Because this is actually a 2-card 9. Under the assumption that cheering is worth 1 value, which making a toughness token and cheering could be worth like 1.5, 2, depending on what your build is and like how much you actually rely. So this is actually a really good statted attack. The problem is in Tuffnut specifically, it costs 3. To consistently get cheers, you're playing a lot of yellows, so that 3 is actually a really high opportunity cost. So that is something to be wary of. Obviously, in Pleiades, not a problem. You got plenty of blues. Disarm, you have the whole cycle of disarm, disembody, and disperse. They each have the different effects, but they're all basically the same thing. When they all attack, you make a toughness token, and then when they have 6, this one puts a card from the hand to the bottom, which is probably the best. This one puts an aura to the bottom. This one puts their arsenal to the bottom. So you have a CNC, an aura, and a effectively discard, but it goes to the bottom of their deck. So that, and then once again, you have to have 6 defense on it. Fight fair. If this is defended by a revived card, this is just limited, basically. Shining Courage, 0 cost, instant, up to 1 target defending action gets +3. The crowd cheers you. So this is basically a fancy card. What did I just say? Reinforce the line. That's exactly what this is. Just another copy that you can utilize to fulfill these effects that are pretty good. The problem is, and the one thing that I really want to stress to people is like, these card combinations look insanely strong. I'll just give you an example, right? Let's say we block with Disarm and we play Shining Courage. Okay. We literally block 6 on 2 cards. Okay. We get cheered, which means we make a toughness. We'll just say that that's 1 value. So we're at 7 on 2 cards. We're already at a good place, right? Well, guess what? They delete a card. So now we're at 10 to 11 territory. And so like that's a giga strong play, like really, really good. So this is like really, really strong. But the problem is all that math goes out the window if you're not blocking for 6, right? Because if we do this, if they attack with a head jab and we do the same line, then you're only getting effective 3 block plus the 1 on the toughness, assuming you can leverage the value of the next turn, which is 4. And then they're deleting a card. So now you're just a 2-card 7. That's like just regular territory, right? Which I'm saying that as if it's a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing. If the floor of your card is average rate in Flesh and Blood, that's like a decent spot to be in. And the ceiling of it is like just giga value, right? So these combinations you don't want to sleep on them is the point that I'm getting at. You really, really don't. Will of the Crowd. When this defends, if you have been cheered this turn, defending action cards get +3 this chain link. This is like, you have to be wanting to block like 11 damage to make this card playable. Because you really want to like play 2 cards with it, 2 action cards. So you're blocking 2 plus 14. It's a 3-card 14. If you've been cheered somehow, you cheer. I don't know. I don't think it's going to see play, in my opinion. Am I saying giga that much? Giga value. All right, then we have Dig In. Dig In is another like key. I mean, just look what it does, right? It's kind of a glue piece for everything that we've kind of seen, right? You get to block with this, you get to pitch into it to make your toughness tokens, which kind of turn on all of these things to kind of get your engine going, right? And it's a good way to convert value to shift value. One thing that I've always really appreciated in Flesh and Blood is the ability to shift value from one turn to the other. And in a lot of situations that we've seen in Flesh and Blood, historically, the most common way that you shift value from one turn to the other turn is the whole premise of the arsenal. Arsenal is the number one way that you shift value from one turn to the other. if you go outside of the arsenal, the only real way that you shift value is tokens and potions. Those are like the only real way. And doing that, I mean, just look at the opportunity cost of an e-pot. You have to play a whole ass card and an action point to get 2 resources, which most people would say it's 2 value. It's never 2 value because it usually stacks with something that's like multiplicative and nonlinear. But this, you don't have to do anything other than block, which is not that serious. And you just get to dump into it if you want to. It's such a flexible card. I think this is an absolute all-star in any deck that wants to leverage toughness tokens, period. Simple as that. And it's not that it does anything crazy. It's just the fact that it's super flexible with literally no opportunity cost. Absolutely wild. Empowering Ruckus, if you've been cheered this turn, it gets +1. It's just mid as fuck. I don't know what to say. Or sorry, Giga Mid. It's Giga Mid. Fight from behind, 2 cost 6. So we are kind of branching from the 3 cost here. If you notice, a lot of these revered cards, a ton of them, cost 3. Very important to note. Fight from behind, however, kind of deviates from that, but you also suffer in the block category as well. So all the other ones are like 3 for 7, block 3. This one's scaled down. So I'm expecting a good effect, is all I'm saying. When this attacks or defends, if you have less health than each other hero, the crowd cheers you. So that's pretty good. Depending, right? It is situational. It's not above or below rate on its own, right? It is below rate if you block with it. So if you block with it and they cheer you, you're barely at rate. I don't think this card's kind of dog shit, to be honest. Being cheered has to be worth a ton in your deck to run this card, is all I'm saying. Now these, I think, are the cool. So this is like exactly what I love. It is cards that, like, if you reveal them and win a clash, you get like X effect. I love those things. I know obviously they've been done before with the 2 Guardian cards, the one that makes the Might and what is it, Wallop, and I forget the other one. So yes, they have been done before, but I don't know. I just love these cards. And then you have the Clash cards that go with them, right? And one thing that I really want to zoom in on is the difference between the previous Clash cards that we've seen is these give you the option to sync your card or not. You get the ability to ability to decide whether you want that card on the top of your deck or not, which is absolutely massive depending on what you're actually trying to accomplish. If you're playing a rock build, you want to guarantee that there's a blue there, or you want to know how much risk you're taking by blocking down the turn to swing your weapon. If there's a red on top, maybe you change your line and now you tunic counter the 2 cost out instead, right? Like, it allows you to kind of shake up your lines a little bit, which is a good thing. So I'm really high on those cards. And then you have Turn the Crowd Grateful. When this attacks a reviled hero, this is just a reviled tech. Really good card if you really need to beat up on some reviled heroes. Who's the tough guy? 2 cost 7, a little bit higher on the stat line when this combat chain closes if it didn't hit defeating hero. So it's a negative effect on this one. And we should almost be done with these revered cards. Getting there. We already went down. Cheers just makes spending a whole card when this enters and leaves. So you're getting cheered twice for I guess if you had a deck that doesn't make toughness tokens a lot, but it's important for your build, which is kind of conflicting a little bit. It is a low opportunity cost. It is a blue block 3, right? Um, it could see play, but I really don't see the worth. I think this card's really good. The ability to basically one, it makes toughness, right? Which turns on all your other synergies of requiring toughness tokens, and then it acts as basically a zero cost pump, right? And it does check the one that is on the card, right? So it's always a guaranteed one. And then you make the toughness token, which is a guaranteed at least 2 value, 2.5, whatever, however you evaluate it. And it's a yellow. So if you can just like pitch for Tuffnut, cough, cough. This is basically nimblism that applies to any attack, which that's yellow. So like on the floor, it's a solid card. It does a thing, right? It does a thing. It does the thing. So I think it's a solid card. I think it will see play. How it sees play, we'll see. Heroic Pose, I don't think this card quite gets there. I'm not a fan of the stat line, the 1 cost, the 2 block. Yes, it applies to any attack, which is good. And yes, it does cheer you as well. But overall, not a huge fan of this one, to be honest. I think it's the stat line is just not. If it's 0 cost, okay, we're cooking. But that 1, I think, is going to just really cause a lot of problems. Humble Entrance, then you have the create 3 toughness token. So in my opinion, I think this card is much better than this card because I think there's a lot more synergies that involve something blocking for 6 rather than just having 1 toughness token. The downside is if you're playing against a go wide deck, this card is trash, okay? And it blocks 2. So there is an opportunity cost there. Darling of the crowd, while this is defending, if you've cheered this turn, gets +1. Mid as fuck, just run his fucking D-react, call it a day. And not so mighty, blue block 2 when this defends or no. Okay, next. Easy enough. So we kind of went over the revered cards, and the reason I did it in that order is I wanted to kind of show some of the synergies that the devs might be kind of trying to push you toward in your discovery, whatever you want with these new heroes, right? To kind of give you an idea of what is trying to happen. So let's go ahead and we'll start with Pleiades. We've already went over the hero. We can go over the equipment. I don't think she's ever using this. No shot. Okay. Just run a 3 block chest. Call it a day. This is probably one of her best cards, Cries of Encore. 3 cost 7 when this attacks a hero. If you have less life than them, the crowd cheers you. If you've been cheered this turn, this gets. So keep in mind, when you attack and you're under their life, you get cheered. If you're Pleiades, you make a confidence token. So therefore, the opponent can only block with 2 cards. They only block with 2 cards. Most of the time, it's going to be 2-3 blocks, which means this will leak through. And when this hits a hero, you may play an Aura of Suspense from your graveyard this turn. That's a really fucking good effect. So you have the ability to loop this. There's a ton of things that you can kind of do. Really, really good card. And then you have her signature move or whatever you want to call it, and it's okay. I don't know. I'm actually not a huge fan of these charm cards. I don't want to run too many non-block instances that I don't have to, in my opinion. This is a really good card. Blue, 0 cost 2. Suspense. When this enters or leaves the arena, you may put a revered. And this is the loop, right? So you play this, and then it hits because it has like Limpy Dominate, right? And then you put up the pedestal, and this enters, right? So then you would put Cries of the Encore on the top of your deck. Then you would not on the top. Yes, then you put this into the field, which allows you to then put a Cries of Encore on the top of your deck, and then you would simply draw it the next turn and play it again. And then the next turn, you can get something else because you also get the same effect here when it leaves. So you can kind of like you do a rotation where you get this one, you get it back, and then you get something else, and then you get this again, and you can just kind of loop it in that fashion if you so please. You feel like Pleiades is gonna be giga broken. See, chat's starting to get it. Chat's starting to get it. We're embracing the giga. Turning point. Blue Revered Guardian block 2 block when this defends if you have less attack than or less health than the attacking hero. The crowd cheers you. You get a confidence token. Okay. While this is defending, if you've been cheered this turn, it gets +3. So you get 5 block. Seems pretty good. It is a little risky, obviously, but I mean, I think it's not like a. If this was like red or yellow, it would be way, way worse. But it being a blue, I think it blocking 2 on no effect is actually not a terrible opportunity cost for the upside of blocking for fucking 5. So I think this is actually pretty good. And then you have uplifting performance. If you control a confidence or toughness token, this gets +1. When this hits a hero, create a confidence and a toughness token. Kind of mid. It is a blue, decently stat lined, so it's okay. Maybe it sees it just for that. I don't know. We've already talked about these 2 cards, so now we go down to the just Guardian cards, wherever those are. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? Almost there. Almost there. This is the juice. The commons and the rares. Holy shit. Wait till we get to Tuffnut. We're doing Tuffnut next. So Guardian. Okay. So we do have the legendary. Obviously, when this defends, you may turn a face down card with Crush in your arsenal. Face up. If you do, put a +1 counter on. So solid value, right? You get the opportunity to literally get 5 value from your arm piece. It does force you into playing a somewhat, crush oriented strategy, but that's not too much to ask for. Stand strong seems giga mid. No tall tales, so 0 cost. Automatically, that points me more toward Lyeth, right? And there's little people. If this has attack greater than its base, it gets +1. Cool. And then tower effect, where they can't go again. So not for Pleiades, in my opinion. I don't think there's that many pumps that she's actually going to be running. There could be a version that plays this deck. I don't think it'd be terribly good. And this is an interesting card because I thought when I originally saw this card, I thought that it was a Revered Guardian instant, but it's actually just a Guardian instant, which is actually kind of wild. But really good card. You basically are just trading this in a blue or a yellow, and you're drawing a card now and when it leaves, right? So it's an even swap, and if you pitch a blue, it's actually net 1 resource. But more importantly, like I mentioned earlier, the historical opportunity cost of delaying value onto another turn is really high, and this is very, very low because you're basically getting a 1-to-1 ratio. So pretty good card. Cut a long story short, if this has attack, great. So same thing. I'm going to kind of skip a lot of these cards that seem like they're for Lyeth, and then kind of, yeah. I don't think she's getting any of the tower effects, in my opinion. Hungry for more. Suspense. So this is obviously going to be her. And then when this leaves the arena, gain 3. So this is pretty solid. It does not have go again, and it costs 1, which is kind of weird. So really, you would have to have a build that really cares about the game going long. If that's the case, this could see play, but I think it'd be very, very, very niche. But I take that back. It's actually kind of when this leaves suspense, just because it's suspense, you get to send some of the value to another aura that's pre-existing, which means that aura stays for longer, which is if it has a constant effect, you gain value there. Maybe this is a lot better than I'm giving it credit for. Um, so I'm gonna say this is pretty solid. Turn heads, 3 cost, blue, 3 block aura suspense. When this leaves the arena, tap target brute heroes. This is just, hate if you need it. Um, and not just brute, but ones that care about tapping, which is just the 2 new ones. So very, very specific hate. But if you need it, hey, it's there. Who blinks first? 3 cost, blue suspense. When this leaves the arena, you may destroy an aura permanent that a guardian. So this is like limited ass shit. Full of bravado, 3, 7, 2 block. When this attacks and defends, if you control an area of suspense, create a confidence token. I don't think this is good enough. In my opinion, blocking 2 is giga sus, right, chat? Absolutely. Okay. When this attacks or defends, you may put a suspense counter on or remove one from an aura of suspense you control. So if there's ever a build where you're like just trying to keep certain auras in play and you're trying to like build up to something absolutely massive as some kind of like ant some anti like strategy counter, like you're trying to like just blow the fuck up out of Florian or something like that. Like you could this is a decent strategy to do that because you can like you have a lot of control on when everything's popping, right? That's really the only use case I see for this because the stat line's kind of sus being a 2 block, to be honest. Bash Brute, this is just like limited ass hate. Familiar story 372. Once again, when one or more Guardian cards defend this is trash. If this is played from Arsenal, it gets +5. Okay, so we got a. I mean, it's a good stat line, right? It's a 3 for 8, but it has and it's a 3 block, so there's not that much opportunity cost of actually getting it to Arsenal for that move. Um, Shoot your mouth off also has a 3 for 8, but blocks 2 when the combat chain closes, but it has the negative effect on it like the other one. Short shrift. I thought it said short shit. Oh man. If this has attack greater than its base, it gets +1. Crush when this deals 4. Okay, yeah, we know crush. And they discard a card. I think this is good enough on hit to where if you have any type of pumping, this is probably worth it. You probably wouldn't want a lot of them, but seems pretty decent. Small problem 033. If this, yep, same thing. Destroying an aura. It's much more tailored. This is generically better, but I'm assuming this is just a lot. Yeah, this is Arsenal. So same thing. Best, middle, and then very situational, right? Active Glory, 4 cost aura, man. That's tough. But it pumps your next attack by +6. So this is like delayed slogism, which is like, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot. +6 is no small amount. But the 4, man, that's a tough thing to fit into the curve. So whether it sees you just have to be on like a super like just all in pump type of build. Dramatic pause suspense when this enters the arena. Target defending action cards gets +3. So if you are on the Guardian version, you're trying. This is just going to be used to exploit the. If this thing has 6 defense, you get X effect. So if you're on that build, it's obviously going to be playable. Unfortunately, only the red one will be because that's the only thing that just guarantees something gets to 6. Edge of their seats 3. Suspense when this leaves the arena +5. So this, I actually like this one way better than Active Glory because it's on a much better curve. You can just kind of play it, and you don't have to have tunic counter or any like vigor token or anything like that. So I like the stat line here way more, in my opinion. Tension in the air. This is an instant. And it says, when this leaves the arena, your next attack this turn gets +4. So same thing. I like these two way more than Active Glory, in my opinion. But also, I mean, they are instant, so you can like fit this into the curve of a Lyeth activation, right? If you're playing it defensively, um, it does come in with 2 suspense counters, so you're not requiring that you like actually execute. So maybe this one's better in Lyeth, possible. Okay, so suspense is killing me. I know what this one does. First attack each turn gets +1. This one seems solid because it blocks 2. Do you want to run a lot of them? Probably not, but it seems pretty solid. To be continued, first time you be dealt damage, prevent 1 of that damage. Situational, if it stays around, you're gonna get 1 when you play it. Then you take a 1 off, you get another one, then you take another one off, it leaves. Kinda not sure. Have to be very situational. This card is absolutely busted. 0 cost, 2 block, don't give a fuck. What happens next? Blue. First card that costs 1 or more you play costs 1 less. So free resource every single turn. Also, it says each turn. It doesn't say your turn. It doesn't say your opponent's turn. It's both turns. So literally, this card can just generate giga amounts of value. See where I'm going with that, chat? Um, Absolutely wild. Really, just a hell of an all-star of a card. Like, absolutely wild. Then you have Sit, which is kind of dog shit. Easy. So that concludes all of you know, the cards for basically Pleiades. Now, where I've kind of gotten at as far as like the different builds, like the strongest thing that I've seen her do is looping this card. That is like, from when I saw it, I was like, damn, that's strong, right? Uh, that's one of the only things, if I'm being honest, like there's something there. I don't know exactly what it is, or it's going to take some time to kind of iron it out. But like the one thing where, because every hero needs that thing that's like, man, they just do that and it's really really strong. This card is Pleiades' angle for that argument. It's just really really good, and the ability to also leverage the discount card that we went over just a second ago, really really strong. So looping this, however, you can kind of curate. Do you take a really defensive posture that curates the environment to where you can enact a loop of this card? Seems feasible. Do people adapt and run D-react so the shit doesn't hit? Maybe. Do you run instances and stuff like that that pump it immediately to counter it? Maybe, right? Like there's a lot of counterplay to kind of interact with that kind of strategy. So overall, I think she's pretty solid. Mm. Yeah, cries is just wild. It's the strongest thing for sure that I've seen her actively do. Now we're gonna go into my personal favorite. We're gonna discuss Tuffnut. Basically, the two builds that I've seen so far is effectively a rock build and a club build. And the rock build, you can go like Giga Degen 55 blues, some wild shit. You can kind of go my version, which is a little bit different than that, a lot of bit different than that, because it runs about half as many blues. Um, and I kind of use a lot of tools to kind of manipulate the top card of my deck, to basically forecast what my line should be and whether I should actively be seeking a rock swing that turn or not, is kind of the angle that the deck takes. And so far I've been really impressed with how it plays. I thought the hero was going to be good when I saw it. When I first started playing, I was like, it's not doing what exactly I want. And I found out that it was a skill issue. I didn't think a deck with 3 intellect would actually have kind of difficult lines. But the lines aren't difficult regarding the hero. The shit's like 1+2. But what's hard is you have to like block and then do like a flow chart on what happens if they just play something and pass? What happens if they so basically what you have to do is what I think it's kind of rock deck has kind of boiled down to is you have two options. You take this line which necessitates a scab roll, or you take this line which doesn't. And your opponent's actions dictate which line you take, not what you think is optimal. And so it's interesting and kind of fun in its own unique way where like the opponent's actions just kind of steer you in the direction. But you kind of embrace it a little bit and it just kind of works because the math on scabs is like actually really fucking good in that deck. Just period. We already talked about this card. I think it's absolute or this card is really good. We didn't talk about that one. We talked about the one that's 0 cost if you've been cheered. But this one is also really, really good. Because once again, the opportunity cost is pretty low. This is always something that you can very easily just tough nut a pitch off the deck and play it for 6, right? Just do some average ass play at worst. So the 0 block is not too high of an opportunity cost. And the fact that you can just block 6 plus 1 more off of a cheer is pretty fucking good. Jaws of Victory is some pseudo go again. This kind of mitigates the need to take a lot of those greedy rock plays basically because it allows you this does so much for rock because if you pitch blue you have 1 floating, so now if you hit a yellow or if you hit anything, if you have tunic counter, you're good and all you have to do is be lower life. Like it's a really, really good card that kind of allows a lot of different lines, so really high on that one as well. This is really good as well because it's very flexible. And it's a blue 6. So it's one of the very few cards that basically allow you to pitch for rock and actually utilize all of the resources and also get your cheer from the effect. We talked about the charms. This one's probably one of the better ones, maybe, but I'm still not sold on its application and usage. Not a huge fan of this one. I think it's okay. I think the stat line is decent. But I think I would like to get a little bit more from the card. Like I don't think um a 2 for 7 is good enough. I mean, on hit 2 card 9, like I get the value premise, but I don't like the opponent dictating um, you know, whether I get that level of value or not. Like for you to play a red card in Toughnut, it's got to be pretty fucking good. Okay, and that's just not quite there. But now we go to just the commons and rares for brute, and holy shit! Well, not just commons and rares, but just generic brute cards. And this is where the fucking magic happens. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. Like this is absolutely insane. Absolutely just puts the class on the map from the get-go. So we have the new Apex Bone Breakers, right? But this is what we've kind of leaned on is this is more of a like, okay, if your game is going to go long, then you have the ability to kind of extract some more continuous value. Just read the message from Pierre. Too good. Um, but yeah, so this if your game's going really long, this can be the arm piece to use. But Apex is really fucking good, right? So you have to be like absolutely sure. I think in the beginning, a lot of people are going to be playing this card that should not be. And then it'll kind of find its place as maybe like a sideboard piece that comes in and out. This card is in fucking insane. You clash for each individual card. So if they jam armor, you just start blowing them up. It blocks for 0, but guess what? Nobody gives a fuck because you're not blocking with this card because it's so like who would give a shit if Codex of Frailty blocks 0? Nobody, right? Because you're playing that shit, you're not blocking with it. So this card is just absolutely insane. So is this one. so many good cards, right? Like 2 for 8 against like 90% of the decks. And guess what? Oh, you have a bunch of sixes in your decks? Okay, I'll just side this card out. Like there's no fucking problem. This card sucks ass. Not even like if you're playing a brute and there's other brutes in the meta, this card still sucks. Because it's a 3/8, but then like if it hits, they discard a card, but if it has 6 or more, then you lose then you lose 2 life. So like I guess it's not terrible. Like the stat line by itself, 2 card 8 is fine. But if you get the extra on hit, it could impact you as well, which is a risky spot. So I don't think it'd be quite worth a very, very niche sideboard slot, in my opinion. Disturb the peace. Guys, I'm my voice is going. Okay. But we're gonna push through. Maybe I'm not gonna read each card. I'm just going to kind of, just kind of give my opinion. I feel like my voice is about to go. Disturb the peace. Defended by auras. Okay, so just limited. Sure. This is really good. Blue. And it's flexible because you can just make a vigor token. One thing that I also want to kind of mention was in heavy hitters, Brute was kind of siloed into might tokens and agility tokens. And now for the first time, Brutes have been opened up to vigor tokens. And that's very important because obviously the whole triangle thing with heavy hitters was a big balancing thing. Like if you can imagine, like might in warrior is insane, right? And then same thing, agility in guardian, wow. And then vigor token in brute, right? So we're kind of invalidating that balance by opening the door for brute to utilize vigor tokens, and I think it is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So really, really, really good. Smashing ground is just a pure upgrade for a lot of blue slots. Like you actually just get utility from your blues instead of them being fucking wreck or romp or some other shit like that. And then you smash with big rock, giga mid, not playable. This one's actually really good. One thing I want to say about this is like it's a 0 for 3 or 4, not a big deal. The big thing about this card is it allows you to decide what your draw discard pattern is going to be or what your next hand is going to be, so you can come plan accordingly, deciding on what you're going to arsenal or what you want to like I said, draw or discard. Like if you have a sea legs 3 cards down, you want to draw and discard it due to a bear fangs, you get that ability, something like that. It's really, really good in that manner, and it's just kind of good. The question is in KO, obviously non-6s are at an extreme premium, and you never want to go higher than 6. A lot of people don't going above 4. It's basically Blood Rush Bellow, Reckless Swing, and that's it. Typically 2 of those at tops. So this card's really good, especially in blue. And then maybe the red. It's just another on hit. The one thing downside of it is that 3 cost. It doesn't fit the curve of like a Wild Ride, a Mandible Claw into another 2 cost. So you do have to find that resource somewhere, but the effect is good, right? So that is one thing to keep in mind. Not gonna play it. Not gonna play it. Not gonna play it. Bash Guardian, not gonna play it. Nope. Insane, this card. Okay. If I was a Guardian player, I would be pissed. Okay. Because they had to play Zealous Belting. And then Brute just ups and gets this card. What the fuck? Like it's like night and day. And this card's good. 3 for 7 with Go Again. Wow. Just and there's no like if KO, it's like any blue card. It's this card's good. This card's good is all I'm saying. This card's super mid. I was really high on it when I first said it, but then I actually read it. Or not when I said it, when I saw it. But then I actually read it and it was kind of sus. So obviously with KO, your might token takes it up to 6, right? KO effect does not happen for cards on the combat chain, so when you play this, it will not gain go again. You have to have like the +1 from the might or something like that too, or the gauntlets. But you're usually going to lead with something like this. The gauntlets aren't really applicable either. Uh, Kind of mid to be honest. Also kind of mid. This one's really good and interesting. 2 for 6 with the ability, same effect as Buck Wild, but you're making a vigor token instead of the go again, and it blocks better. So I like this card. The problem that I'm having is I don't know how to fucking fit it in because there's so many good cards specifically in this set for Brute in the rare and common slot, that it's almost an embarrassment of riches situation. Not that which let Brute players have their fun, right? Because they've kind of been in a tough spot for quite some time, with it, with the exception of maybe heavy hitters. But I think it's interesting. I just don't know how to fit it in the deck. Is kind of the problem that I'm having. Um, don't think this one's worth it. Juice is not worth the squeeze. You have to clash a lot for this to be worth it. This card is insane, absolutely wild, especially in blue and KO. It's like a free clash that you're probably going to win, and you get a vigor token off of it. Absolutely insane. The next attack. No, this is Guardian. Okay, and that is it. So straight from the get go, I'm telling you right now, the winner from just the class cards, not talent related, the winner is Brute. Like, there's just no way. You compared that to the Guardian cards we looked at, like, okay, nobody gives a fuck about your suspense counters except for this card. This card's absolutely fucking busted. But the other cards, like, don't go toe to toe with what we just looked at, like Stampede and Show of Strength and all that shit. Like, absolutely wild. Okay. So I just want to get that out there, and straight from the get go. So we kind of talked about the initial impression of Tuffnut, different directions you can kind of take. Now we're going to get into the reviled heroes. And for time's sake and my voice sake, I don't think I'm going to make it through each individual card. What I am going to do, and we might just have to make it up in a later stream, is I'm just going to kind of loosely talk about the heroes and kind of what I've seen and experienced so far. Now, my initial impressions so far, and once again, this is really early, right? We're not like, oh, I've done the math and they are factually this. No, that's not the case. KO seems giga mid. I'm referring to the new one. I mean, like, exceptionally mid. Okay, like, just so mid. The way that I'm looking at this is basically for a target attack action you to control has a base power of 6, right? So the max you can get from that activation is 6 value. You take something with 0 attack, make it 6, right? And if you do that, you are assuming you found a resource somewhere, either a vigor token or a, tunic counter, whatever the case may be. You just have found that 4th resource. A blue card and another attack equals 6. This is 2 cards 6, so you haven't even done anything, right? Um, and you're starting with 1 wet. You're still starting with that negative aspect. So the hero bit now. One thing that I do want to obviously put out there is a lot of the reviled attacks have on hits, right? And so you do have this situation where you have the ability to kind of have that warrior-esque assassin kind of situation where you're kind of like hovering a threat over their head. Where, like, say you play a 0 for 3 with an on hit. Well, you could make it 6, right? Do they have a counter to it? The problem with that is because it comes from the pitch and it's not like a reaction, This deck is the absolute worst at arsenaling anything other than the attack you intend on throwing. I'll give you an example. If you have a card in arsenal and you play an attack and you have one card in hand with one floating, unless your arsenal is an instant, I know you basically priced yourself into activating that. So I can effectively take the risk. Now, I'm not also going to discount the ability for the KO player to take that into consideration and manipulate the situation to present certain game states in which you basically are telling the opponent you're activating, but you're not really. And my question is, can you produce enough of those events to actually get fucking value from your hero ability? Like, when I say value, I don't mean one or two. I mean, think about Ira. Ira literally gets probably anywhere between 4 to 9 value every game. Every single game. 4 to 9 value. Is this hero ability and the deck building restraints that come along with it going to produce 4 to 9 value? And when I say 4 to 9 value, I mean 4 to 9 above rate, right? Not, oh, it produced 3 value because it made a 3 a 6. No, you had to invest a whole nother card to do that, right? I'm saying doesn't put you above rate by 4 to 9 value. And that's a tall ask, right? Like you got to be hitting with on hit after on hit after on hit. So I'm not entirely sold on this hero in general. I will completely admit and make it very transparent that this is the hero that I've spent the absolute least amount of time investigating, because that is a conclusion that I came to, I'll be honest, very quickly. But I could end up being wrong, but from the surface, what it seems like is this is just really mid. Thematically, the art really cool. I know why KO's here in the development cycle. Basically, KO was just tearing through RTN season or whatever it was, and then just accumulating a lot of LL points approximately a year and a half, 2 years ago, which is when the set would have been being designed. So they needed to basically find a replacement as quick as possible, and here is why we have KO. More than likely, I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened. I'm just saying that the timing lines up literally perfectly. So that's just speculation, but I think it's good speculation. So overall, don't think he's very powerful, and we'll see what comes of it. Lyeth is the next one, and he is very interesting. Obviously, he's the first 5 intellect hero, but he kind of only leaves room to kind of do one thing. That is use pumps to leverage on hits. That is like, by design, the only fucking thing that he can do. Okay? He can play one attack to get minimized the least amount of value for his extreme benefit of getting an extra card every turn. And then play a bunch of fucking pumps on it, right? And what I quickly realized is, sure, I've seen attacks for 20, 25, 30. I've seen those. The problem is disruption into this hero is so potent, it's not even funny, right? Because you are trying to build things up very heavily, which means you need more cards. And for you to even block a lot of pumps, by the way, guess what? Block 2. And in his deck, block 1 unless he activates his hero ability. So even if you use your hero ability, you're not even getting up to a decent block value. So what I've quickly realized is, if you ever create a game state where life is incentivized to block ever, you just win those games. You just do. Now, am I saying he's bad? No, I'm not. What I'm saying is that it's kind of like, what's another good example? How like Kodachi lock can kind of like just lock you into a certain situation and kind of produce a game-winning game state. He kind of has the opposite, and he has a losing game state. But that does not mean that during the other 75% of the game that he's doing absolutely broken shit. That is entirely possible. I don't think that that's the case. I think that he seemed on the surface, and of course, we're going to spend another week kind of digging into it. But on the surface, it seems like he does a thing, and the thing is powerful, but I think it's fragile. So I am getting like these, not consistent room blade. It's like you're playing room blade because you need the non-attacks and the attacks, but you don't have like the positive of like having embodiment of earth or things like that to kind of like buy you time to get through those shitty hands. He just has to like get them and play them how they come, and like that's just all he can kind of do. Um, Now, if he draws hot, like that's just what's going to happen, right? And I think one of the best things about these heroes that play a lot of auras and stuff like that is they just eliminate the negative aspect that has historically plagued Flesh and Blood of going second or first, right? Historically, over Flesh and Blood, you want to go second. That's like the safe default answer. Historically, not always, historically. These heroes, holy shit, the amount of value. They're like Reinhardt level of value, assuming Reinhardt can like intimidate 2 or 3 cards. You can just play like 2 or 3 auras and get like 6 to 8 value just for free. No cost. Absolutely insane. Can we expect the debut of your take on Tuffnut with the show match? That is absolutely correct. I will be playing Tuffnut for the show match. That is my hero of choice. It was just what I was drawn to. I don't know. We'll see. I got a couple of ideas on how I'm going to kind of like build him. I'm kind of bouncing between a couple different avenues. I've kind of decided that I want to do rock because I think rock is really good. Um, but also, I'm going to be 100% honest. Like, if I play club, I feel like I want to fall asleep. It's like block a bunch, swing club. Block a bunch. Oh, you taking a turn off? Okay, I'll throw a 2 for 7. But like, if I'm playing rock, then I feel like I'm engaged the whole game. I'm like, okay, is he going to attack again? Will I get the opportunity to block one more time or 2 more times? What size are those attacks going to be? What do I do if an on hit comes after that? Like, I feel like I'm engaged. It's a lot more entertaining of a game if you play rock. I'm not at a point to where I can confidently say which one's better. I just prefer the rock style gameplay, and that is what I'm going to be playing for the show match. Um, so if you were waiting for me to go over all of the reviled cards, I do apologize, but I've stopped to like cough like 100 times, and I've read like a slew of cards. So I'm gonna be honest, I just don't have it in me. And it's literally that simple. But what I do have in me is time to answer anybody's questions. If they have those, feel free to throw them in chat. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to ask anything you want. And then we'll kind of close out one more reminder. The tier list stream for Classic Constructed will be next week on Wednesday. We'll be going through all of that, and obviously super excited for that one as always. I'm gonna try to bring the jokes a little bit that I can, and try to give some deep insight on what's going to kind of transpire in regards to the meta. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about Florian, talking about KO, and these are good decks. So I'm actually segueing into already pre-answering your question. So KO is good. One thing that I want to remind people is that he does really good numbers. And I think the meta is going to do something very interesting. I think what's going to end up happening is people are going to remember the heavy hitter days. And so you have KO was really bad into dual wielding warriors. So what's going to happen is for the first couple weeks, people are going to be like, okay, everybody's playing KO. I need to play dual wielding warrior. And if that's the case, and they're going to try it. right? They're going to be wildly unsuccessful. I think that there's enough consistency built into the deck and pressure to where that is no longer a bad matchup. It may be 50-50, sure, but I don't think it's bad by any means. So people are going to try to counter it the old way, right? And yeah, it is what it is. So that's kind of I think dual wielding warrior is going to have you know a little splash in the meta. Realize that it's not fucking working and it's not the answer to KO, and they're going to immediately disappear. Is my prediction. Now, does something actually come in and actually counter KO? You'll have to stick around till Wednesday to find out for the tier list. That's where I'll kind of decide, is KO the best deck. There's a couple more things I need to try to kind of truly get a good answer on that, but that's where it'll be. You think Victor ever let Lyeth ride his horse? I mean, how would he get on it is the question. That's the real thing we need to investigate. Is Agroblaze one of the card guys? He is not, but he is definitely a friend of the card guys. That is absolutely for sure. We love Zach over here. And of course, he is on the Breakpoints podcast with Taylor and Sam. But officially, no. The answer would be no. But he's always welcome on the channel anytime. Best Super Slam hero and worst, and why? Well, from what I stated earlier, a lot of people would just assume that the worst one is KO, and I would say that I would lock in my answer. The new KO is just not it for sure. As far as the best, right now, and remember, I want to put a little asterisk on a lot of this. This is the reason I didn't do the tier list today is I have not went through and done my full investigation. So my total idea could change in this next week. That's the whole reason I do not just rush to put out a tier list. I never want to be the first one to do it ever. Because it takes time to look at these things and ask yourself, okay, if this change, like dual wielding warrior, they show up, okay, they realize it doesn't work, they step out. Does that mean Acilio comes in and kind of tests the waters? Like you have to play through all of these different situations, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time. But to answer your question, currently, at this moment in time, in my opinion, I think Tuffnut is the best situated. Now, I think in the longevity of Flesh and Blood, in the near future, you're talking a year from now, half a year from now, I think Pleiades will be the best of the four heroes. But currently, when we are in a brute situation before the meta actually refines to its final state, we're talking worlds, post-worlds, whatever the case may be, I think Tuffnut is a little bit better situated than the others. And I think a lot of that's going to just depend and ride on how the Verdant's matchup is for all of them. Did you tune into Montreal, and what's your impression of the set for limited? So I did tune in, and the coverage was phenomenal. First of all, I just want to say that. But I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of like half-ass listened to the limited portion. Like I kind of like checked in on it. I didn't follow it closely, and the reason for is I have no reason to. It When I originally saw the set, I was like, man, this is not the set for me. Like I was not hyped for Super Slam at all, but it's kind of grown on me. Kind of gotten to the point to where I think I actually kind of enjoy it now. But limited, I have no aspirations to learn it. I will never draft this set ever. Period. Will never happen. Simply because there's no competitive events that require me to. just is just a reality, right? And so I didn't pay enough attention to it to actually form an impression or anything like that. If I'm being 100% honest with you, you think Super Slam moves the needle any in terms of meta? Or are we just gonna head back to the gravy Florian insert aggro deck? That's an interesting point. My current synopsis is kind of, I think people are going to try some fancy things, and ultimately, what's going to happen is they're going to fuck around and find out, uh, and then we're going to go back to just fundamentals, right? And people are going to realize that Gravy's not really gone, and he's still perfectly fine, and among other things. And of course, Verdance is still floating around doing her thing. So the new heroes are capable to deal with gravy bones. So some are, right, some are not. Um, the brute card pool is now. I think there's enough go again built into the pool to where you can actively do that. Tuffnut is terrible into gravy. You have to side in a ton of go again to stay really aggressive. So no, and then that's ultimately why I think Gravy Bones is not going anywhere, is because Gravy Bones just kind of is a really good matchup, um, or really good for Gravy Bones into all of the new heroes. What stops KO from speed running? I'm just joining. I think it's really good, like really, really good. But we're currently just trying to figure out what are some things that we can exploit. We haven't found that much, so we're still in the investigation stage. But currently, he's got a really good card pool, a really good kit. Just it is what it is. So we're trying to find a angle, but I think it's going to take a little bit for the meta for that to kind of develop. We have a couple ideas, but we're going to see how those kind of pan out. We just got to need more time to kind of test those out. All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And like I said earlier, the big tier list is next week. That is when we are going to, you know, do all of that. Really looking forward to it. Always do. It's an absolute blast every time. And I'm just gonna try to, just grind it out and really figure out what it is we can to come up with the answers for the meta, as I always do. If I would want to assemble the Infinity Stones of the card guys and have a card signed by each of you for my collection, like Rosetta Thorn for you, Route for Josh, how would I do it? You just got to find us. But we would be more than willing to do so. More than willing to do so. If that's something that we can do, be more than happy to. Absolutely. And I'll even give you a poker chip to go with it. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining me. I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing everybody next week.